Over IRS Form 1095-B, which is the health coverage information return that you might receive under certain circumstances if you received health coverage from a place other than the healthcare exchange or something known as a large employer. So basically, this provides information for you as the taxpayer on whether or not you were covered under what's known as minimum essential coverage for purposes for tax purposes. So originally under the Affordable Care Act, there was a shared responsibility clause that basically meant that most taxpayers either had to have health coverage or had to have some sort of minimum payment. So if you didn't have health care coverage through your employer, then you needed to purchase health coverage. And certain taxpayers under income thresholds and in special situations would qualify for a premium tax credit that would help offset the cost of that coverage. So now in today's environment, the shared responsibility, otherwise known as a copay, has gone away. However, healthcare providers are still required to give you, as the taxpayer, this form. So if you receive this form and you're looking to receive the premium tax credit, there may be a little bit of additional information that you're going to have to piece together when you start putting together your IRS Form 8962. So unfortunately, the form instructions here don't cover that. So I'll put a link to IRS Form 8962, some of the resources that we've created. But in this video, we're simply going to go over the information as it reads, so according to the instructions, so that you can decide what you need to do in your tax situation. So as a caveat, there's nothing in the form instructions or on the form itself that says you are required to put any of this information on your tax return. It's simply information that's reported to you and the IRS so that the IRS can look at people who are filing Form 8962 and make a determination on whether or not that premium tax credit should be applicable in their situation, or whether or not they are otherwise disqualified. So we'll put links in the show notes to IRS Form 8962 where you can look that up a little bit more in depth. So there are 4 parts to this tax form. The first part is the responsible individual, basically the primary taxpayer. If it's an employer-sponsored insurance, this would be the employee. If it's something like Medicare or TRICARE, this would all be the primary person. You'll have their first name, middle name, and last name in this form. And then their social security number or date of birth. So social security number, you can also find an individual taxpayer ID number, so an ITIN, if the person is not eligible for a social security number. And then if that information is not available, then you would see a date of birth over here. So I put this in both fields just for visualization purposes, but realistically, that's what it would look like if you had the date of birth in there. So mailing address, city, state, and zip code. Then we go to part 2. This is the information about certain, I forgot letter D, or the letter that is input into line 8. So there is the origin of healthcare coverage. And right down here, you'll see the different types of codes. So government-sponsored program could be something like Medicare or Medicaid, individual market insurance, a multi-employer plan, other minimum, a designated minimum essential coverage, or individual coverage health reimbursement arrangement. So let's just say that this is an employer-sponsored program. So we'll put B in this field. And then line 9 is reserved for future use. It may or may not come into play later on. In part 2, this is the information about the employer-sponsored coverage. So this would be your employer. Part 2 may not have any information in it under certain circumstances. So if it's not employer-sponsored coverage, it probably won't have it. If your employer is what's known as a large employer, you might receive IRS Form 1095-C, and that information might be reported on the 1095-C instead. So if it appears here, you would see the employer name, employer ID number, and in most cases, the employer ID number and the Social Security number will often be truncated. So instead of the full number, it would be something like this. Just like a Social Security number would likely end up looking like this. Part 3 contains the information about the insurance issuer or other coverage provider. So in this case, Acme Insurance Providers, their EIN, and again, that would be redacted. Even if it's redacted on your copy of Form 1095-B, the full information is always reported to the IRS when this is sent with the transmittal document, IRS Form 1094-B. So contact information, this might be the most relevant information that you receive because this should be the contact information that you can use to call your insurance, your issuer, or your healthcare provider if you have any questions about your coverage. It should be the same contact number. And then the mailing address, city, state, and zip code. Part 4 lists the covered individuals and their information, as well as whether or not they were covered the entire year, and if not, which months they were covered. So in this case, John's wife, Mary Jane Doe, was covered all 12 months, and since her Social Security number appears here, her date of birth does not. Same with Elizabeth Doe, John's daughter, but you'll notice that she wasn't covered all 12 months. She was covered up until June, and then as circumstances have it, she ended up getting another job, and she should expect to receive a Form 1095-B from her other job that lists July through December as her months of coverage. So if that's the case, she would be listed up here in Part 1 as the responsible individual. If she got it through an employer-sponsored coverage, then her employer's information would be here. If she changed healthcare providers, that new provider's information would be here, and then she would be listed as a covered individual. I realized that in doing all of this, I did neglect to put down John's information, so we should probably do that right now. So just bear with me for a moment as we go through. So John is technically a covered individual since he is also the responsible individual. So this should be how it looks on the official version. So you can see that there are up to 6 fields for up to 6 covered individuals in Part 4. There is also an overflow. If you have any questions about this, then there are instructions for the recipient located here. And again, if you need more information on the premium tax credit, then there's actually a separate publication, publication 974, that talks about this. So, and then there's an overflow page for up to, well, it goes from line 26 to line 40. So each of those columns should contain the name of the individual, either the tax ID number or the date of birth, and then a checkbox for the months of coverage or if they were covered the entire year. So again, you don't need to do anything with this form. You should be aware that if you're trying to apply for the premium tax credit, your healthcare coverage under this may put that into jeopardy. So you definitely should talk to a tax professional about whether or not you can claim the premium tax credit with the coverage that you're being reported as having received during the tax year. So this is mandatory for people to send to you. You should expect to receive it no later than January 31st of the year following your tax year. And if you don't plan to apply for the premium tax credit, there's probably not a whole lot of information on this form that you need. You simply would just file it away in your records. So we'll put links in the show notes to some of the other videos and articles that we've created about health coverage. So if you have any questions, please hit me up in the comments section. So if you like our articles, please subscribe to our newsletter. And if you like our YouTube videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And again, if you have any ideas for an upcoming video, please hit me up in the comments section. Thank you very much and have a great day.